They appear without warning, emerging from the frozen silence of the far north, shimmering ribbons of green, red, and violet light that dance across the heavens like something alive. The northern lights, the Aurora Borealis. For those who have witnessed them, the experience is unforgettable. Ethereal curtains of light swirling silently through the night sky. For early humans, they were terrifying. For scientists, they remain a breathtaking example of Earth's magnetic beauty, and for countless cultures they were a message from gods, from ancestors, or from something far beyond. Imagine standing in the tundra 1,000 years ago. There are no city lights, no engines, no modern explanations, only endless snow and the sound of the wind. Then, suddenly, the sky explodes into motion. Waves of emerald fire stretching from one horizon to the other. Would you believe it was just sunlight trapped in magnetic storms? Or would you see something divine, perhaps even supernatural? Throughout history, the northern lights have been many things: omens of death, signs of birth, gateways to the afterlife, and warnings of war. In 1938, people across Europe watched in horror as the night sky turned red, blood-like, glowing so bright it cast shadows. Newspapers declared it an omen, and within months World War II began. Coincidence? Or did the heavens truly foretell what was to come? Welcome to Mystery Fact File. Tonight we travel to the edge of the world, to lands of ice and shadow, in search of the truth behind one of Earth's greatest and most haunting phenomena. This is the Northern Lights, Myths and Legends. The story of the Northern Lights begins long before modern science tried to explain them, long before magnetic poles and solar winds were understood. The first people to witness the aurora had no words for it, only awe and fear. In ancient times, the lights were both beautiful and dangerous, a reminder that the sky was alive and unpredictable. In the Arctic Circle, where the nights can last for months, the aurora was a living presence, a silent, moving spirit that came and went as it pleased. It would appear in greens, purples, sometimes even crimson, and then fade into nothingness, as though swallowed by the darkness. Even the most experienced hunters and elders could not predict it. And when it came, they stopped everything. No hunting, no noise, no whistling. Among the Sami people of northern Scandinavia, it was said that whistling at the northern lights could summon them closer or anger them. They called the lights Govsahasad, the lights you can hear. Some swore that on quiet nights you could hear faint crackles, whispers, or the beating of wings as the aurora shimmered overhead. Modern scientists have confirmed that under rare conditions, the aurora can create faint electromagnetic sounds, but for centuries, this was a terrifying mystery. To the Sami, the lights were the souls of the dead, moving across the sky in an endless dance. The people treated them with reverence and silence, because to insult the dead was to invite disaster. But far to the west, another people had their own stories. The Inuit of Alaska and Canada believed the lights were spirits too, but of a more playful kind. They said the aurora were the souls of the dead playing a celestial game, tossing a walrus skull back and forth like a ball. Others believed they were torches held by ancestors, guiding the newly dead to the afterlife. But some Inuit tribes told darker tales, that the lights were souls hunting the living, reaching down to snatch those who strayed too far from home. Parents warned their children not to mock or point at the lights, for fear the spirits would swoop down and take them. In some regions, the lights were also believed to be the spirits of unborn children, waiting for their chance to enter the world. Thus, when the sky glowed green and gold, some would whisper prayers of gratitude, and others of warning. It's strange, isn't it? Across thousands of miles, across different languages and beliefs, one pattern remains. Humans looked at the aurora and saw souls. Even in the heart of Europe, where ancient Norse warriors ruled, the lights took on mythic form. The Vikings believed the aurora were the reflections of the Valkyries' armor, divine warrior maidens who guided fallen heroes to Valhalla. The lights were their shining shields as they rode through the heavens. In Iceland, people whispered that the aurora was a sign of fertility, but only if you didn't look directly at it during childbirth. To do so, they warned, would curse the baby with a twisted face. And so, even as the aurora inspired awe, it also inspired fear. A beauty that came with danger. A light that could bless or curse. It is one of nature's greatest paradoxes. The same phenomenon that scientists now call a solar wind interaction once inspired prayers, taboos, and legends of gods and spirits. But even today, when we can photograph and predict the aurora, it still holds a strange, almost supernatural power. Tourists from around the world travel to Norway, Finland, and Alaska to witness it. They stand in silence, phones in hand, eyes wide as the sky ignites in motion. And in that moment, despite all our knowledge, you can feel something ancient awaken. A whisper in the cold air that says, "This is not just light. This is life itself, speaking." The Northern Lights are not only a tale of the Arctic. They have traveled far, carried by stories, by explorers, by wonder itself. And even in places where the aurora rarely touched the sky, its legend took root. In ancient China, scholars described glowing clouds, fiery dragons twisting above the horizon, celestial vapors, they wrote, red as blood, green as jade. In the chronicles of the Song dynasty, there are records of luminous streaks dancing across the northern sky, omens that stirred the hearts of emperors and astrologers alike. In those days, lights in the heavens were never random. They were messages from the cosmos. To see red in the sky meant blood and upheaval, a warning of war, rebellion, or the fall of a dynasty. To see green or white lights meant fortune, a coming victory or divine approval. But one tale stands above the rest. Legend says that when dragons battled in the heavens, their fiery breath created waves of colored light that spilled across the sky, a cosmic reflection of their eternal struggle. Each flash was the clash of scales, each ribbon a trail of fire left in their wake. And so, even the great scholars of the imperial court recorded the aurora as heavenly dragons at play. But beyond poetry, the Chinese were also astronomers. They meticulously noted the shapes, directions, and timings of these mysterious lights. Modern scientists, centuries later, discovered that those dragon battles corresponded perfectly with solar storms, proving that ancient eyes had witnessed the same phenomenon we now study through satellites. Further north, in Japan, auroras are rare, but their appearance always carried deep meaning. It was said that when the sky glowed red, a great birth would follow. The child born under the light of the aurora would grow up blessed, powerful, wise, and destined for greatness. Even today, among some Japanese families in Hokkaido, there is a belief that conceiving a child under the northern lights brings luck and love everlasting. Perhaps it's romantic folklore, or perhaps there's something cosmic that binds light to life. And then there's Siberia, where the endless steppe meets the frozen north. The Yakut and Evenki peoples believed the lights were the spirits of their ancestors dancing around campfires in the sky, celebrating, laughing, watching over the living. But not all spirits were kind. In some villages, when the aurora turned red, it was said to be a river of blood flowing across the heavens, a warning that death was near. The Yakut would never stare too long. afraid the spirits would notice them watching and mistake curiosity for invitation. It's fascinating how these myths, from the Norse Valkyries to the Siberian spirits, share a heartbeat. Different lands, different tongues, yet the same message echoes. The aurora connects us to something beyond ourselves. Light becomes soul, color becomes emotion, and the sky becomes a mirror of the human heart. But let's step forward toward science. Because what exactly is this thing that has haunted and inspired humanity for millennia? When charged particles from the sun collide with Earth's magnetic field, they are funneled toward the poles. They strike atoms high in the atmosphere, mostly oxygen and nitrogen, causing them to glow. Green light, for example, comes from oxygen at lower altitudes, red from higher altitudes, blue and purple from nitrogen. It's literally solar wind turned to color. But here's the strange part. Even with all our knowledge, even with satellites mapping the magnetic field in real time, there are still mysteries we can't explain. Sometimes the aurora forms perfect spirals that pulse like heartbeats. Sometimes it appears in places far from the poles, like Central Europe or even the Mediterranean, and scientists still debate why. And perhaps most mysteriously, there are moments when people swear they can hear the aurora, faint crackles, hisses, whispers in the air. For centuries, scientists dismissed it as imagination. But in recent years, Finnish researchers recorded actual electromagnetic sound waves during auroral storms, confirming that under the right conditions, the northern lights really sing. So, maybe the ancients weren't wrong after all. In every corner of the world where people looked up at the lights, the same feelings emerged: awe, fear, reverence. But the meanings they gave those feelings, that's where the stories diverge. In Scotland, old folklore called the aurora the merry dancers. But they weren't always merry. It was said that when the lights flickered rapidly, the sky itself was hosting a battle between unseen warriors. The stronger the dance, the fiercer the fight. Some even claimed they could see shields clashing, and when the lights turned crimson, it meant blood had been spilled in heaven. In the Orkney Islands, fishermen refused to sail under the lights. They believed the aurora was a bad omen, a sign that someone would be lost to the sea before dawn. Far across the Atlantic, in North America, the Cree people held one of the most poetic beliefs of all. They said the northern lights were the souls of their ancestors, waving torches to welcome the living to the afterlife. Sometimes, when the wind howled and the lights shimmered in sync, they would lift their hands to the sky, waving back. And in the Algonquin legend, the Creator built a great fire in the far north to remind humanity that life continues even after death. The aurora, they said, was the glow of that eternal flame reflecting off the sky. In Greenland, the Inuit believed the lights could even be summoned. If you whistled beneath the aurora, the lights would descend closer to you, almost as if listening. But if you whistled too long, the spirits might mistake your song for a call and carry you away. Children grew up hearing this warning: when the sky dances, stay silent. Even today, some travelers to Greenland and northern Canada report locals advising the same thing, half in jest, half in tradition. No one wants to test the spirits too closely, but the aurora doesn't belong to the past. Even now, it continues to weave itself into the stories of our age. In 1938, as Europe slept, a blood-red aurora stretched as far south as Italy and Portugal, so bright that fire departments were flooded with calls. People thought cities were burning. A few months later, Hitler invaded Austria. The Vatican declared it was the sign from heaven foretold by the Virgin Mary at Fatima, a prophecy of war. Coincidence? Maybe. But the human heart always seeks patterns, meaning written in the stars. And perhaps that's the truest magic of all. The northern lights are not only a scientific wonder, they are a canvas for our imagination, painted by the universe, interpreted by our fears and dreams. So the next time you see the aurora, whether in the Arctic night or in a photograph glowing green over a frozen lake, pause for a moment. Think of the countless eyes that have looked up before you. Vikings, shamans, warriors, mothers, kings, explorers, dreamers, all staring at the same lights, asking the same question, what are you, really? And maybe, just maybe, if you listen closely enough, you'll hear the faint whisper of wings, the echo of laughter, the sigh of souls dancing in the night. Because even now, no matter how much we know, the northern lights still speak a language we don't fully understand. You've been listening to Mystery Fact File, exploring the northern lights, myths, and legends. If you enjoyed this journey, leave a comment below. Tell us which legend you'd believe if you saw the sky come alive. And don't forget to subscribe, because our next mystery might just change the way you see the night forever. The aurora, for all its beauty, is not just a show of color. It's a conversation between the earth and the sun. Every light that shimmers above the polar night begins 93 million miles away, on the surface of the sun, a cauldron of plasma and fury, where magnetic fields twist and snap like cosmic whips. When that magnetic tension breaks, it hurls billions of charged particles into space, a solar wind traveling faster than 800 kilometers per second. And if Earth happens to stand in its path, our planet responds, not in destruction, but in light. The Earth's magnetic field captures those particles and funnels them toward the poles, where the atmosphere grows thin and fragile. There, oxygen and nitrogen atoms absorb the energy and release it as light. Each color corresponds to a specific gas and altitude. Green from oxygen about 100 km above Earth. Red from oxygen 200 km higher. Blue and purple from nitrogen, glowing faintly along the edges. In a sense, every aurora is a fingerprint of space weather, an atmospheric diary written in electromagnetic ink. But here's what most people don't realize. No two auroras are ever the same. The magnetic field of the Earth is constantly shifting, bending, breathing. Solar activity ebbs and flows in 11-year cycles. Each collision between solar particles and Earth's upper air is unique, unpredictable, fleeting. So when you look at the northern lights, you are seeing a once-in-a-lifetime pattern, a work of art that will never appear again. Scientists have spent centuries chasing the logic behind this celestial dance. In the 1600s, Galileo Galilei believed the lights were sunlight reflecting off the atmosphere, a theory that gave us the very word Aurora Borealis, meaning dawn of the north. It wasn't until the 19th century that Norwegian physicist Christian Birkeland discovered that electric currents, driven by particles from the sun, were responsible. He built giant vacuum chambers, used magnets to simulate the Earth's poles, and created miniature auroras right in his laboratory. They called him mad. But today, Birkeland's theories form the foundation of modern space physics. Still, even now, in the age of satellites and supercomputers, mysteries remain. Why, for instance, do auroras sometimes form perfect spirals, as if drawn by an invisible hand? What causes black auroras, patches of darkness that seem to move independently among the glowing curtains? And why do some auroras make audible sounds, faint crackles and whispers that seem to come from the air itself? In 2016, Finnish researchers conducted an experiment deep in Lapland. They recorded sound waves during a geomagnetic storm, and what they found was astonishing. At the exact moment the aurora peaked overhead, low-frequency pops and hisses were detected. The conclusion? Yes, auroras really make sound. Tiny discharges of electricity occur close to the ground, when charged particles disturb Earth's electromagnetic field. It's faint, delicate, and eerie, but it's real. Imagine standing alone in a frozen field, looking up as green ribbons pulse across the night, and then hearing them. Actually hearing them. The sky, speaking. But there's one more mystery, one that blurs the line between science and the supernatural. In 2008, astronauts aboard the International Space Station witnessed a strange formation. A faint violet arc cutting across the atmosphere, parallel to the aurora but distinct from it. They called it STEVE, short for Strong Thermal Emission Velocity Enhancement. It wasn't an aurora, it wasn't a storm, it was something else. STEVE appeared in places where auroras shouldn't, and glowed in colors scientists couldn't explain. For years, no one knew what caused it. Only in 2018 did researchers propose a theory. It might be a stream of charged gas moving through the upper atmosphere at thousands of miles per hour. But even then, no model could fully explain its heat, its shape, or its light. To this day, STEVE remains a reminder. Even in an age of science, the sky still keeps its secrets. And that, perhaps, is the most powerful truth about the Northern Lights. They are proof that mystery and science can coexist, that wonder doesn't end when explanation begins. When you watch the aurora, you are seeing physics and mythology collide, the mathematics of heaven meeting the imagination of Earth. There's a moment that every traveler to the far north remembers. You stand outside in silence. The cold bites your face. The stars feel closer, sharper, like ancient eyes watching you back. Then, the sky moves. A faint green shimmer, a ripple of light stretching across the horizon. So slow you wonder if you're imagining it. But it grows stronger, deeper. Ribbons unfold, twisting and curling like smoke underwater. The entire sky becomes alive, breathing, whispering, pulsing with color. For a second, you forget the science, you forget time, you forget yourself. You are simply there, watching the universe dance. Throughout history, that same experience has left its mark on every culture that's seen it. The Norse saw it as a path for warriors. The Cree saw it as a bridge for souls. The Chinese saw it as dragons in the sky, and today millions see it as a dream made visible. But here's something we rarely think about. The aurora doesn't just belong to the Arctic anymore. As the sun becomes more active in its natural cycle, strong solar storms have started to push auroras further south. In recent years, they've been seen in Scotland, Germany, even Virginia and California. Entire cities have stopped what they were doing, stepping outside to see the heavens burn with color. It's as if the cosmos is reminding us, look up, there's still beauty, there's still mystery. But among all the legends and lights, there's one truth that stands above them all. The Northern Lights have always reflected who we are. To the ancients, they were omens. To poets, they were love letters written in flame. To scientists, they are magnetic storms and plasma. To dreamers, they are hope. And maybe that's the real secret of the aurora. It doesn't just appear in the sky, it appears inside us. That sense of wonder, of curiosity, of longing to understand the unknown. That is the aurora, alive within the human soul. So tonight, if you find yourself beneath a northern sky, remember this. You are looking at a phenomenon that has been burning for billions of years, born from the sun itself. And yet, even with all our satellites and equations, there's something about it that science alone cannot capture. The lights don't just illuminate the atmosphere, they illuminate us. They remind us that no matter how far we go, to the moon, to Mars, to the edge of the galaxy, we will always be creatures who look up and wonder. Because the universe may be vast, but wonder is what makes it home. This has been Mystery Fact File, The Northern Lights, Myths and Legends. If you felt the magic tonight, let us know in the comments below. Which legend do you believe? Are they warriors, spirits, dragons, or something we still don't understand? Don't forget to subscribe for more stories that blur the line between science and the supernatural, because the next mystery may already be unfolding above you.